Mindset RX podcast, a show for functional athletes who want to gain a champ's mindset. Something I haven't pointed out at the beginning of the show for a while is to join the Mindset RX or Mindset for Functional Athletes free Facebook group. As I said, free. There's no cost. I don't know why I felt the need to explain the word free. Maybe it's the naproxen that I'm on that's affecting my thoughts. But anyway, free Facebook group. You can keep up to date with all the goings on of Mindset RX and also get a bit of help from time to time with your personal mindset around CrossFit or mindset around training. Kind of, I hate to use the word issues because it makes it sound like you have issues, but challenges I think is probably the best way to put that. So if you want that, or if you want to join it's like a support group, not like Alcoholics Anonymous, but a support group in as much as we help each other out, and it's a good community, and like people are posting quite a lot in there, and people are helping each other, and obviously you get my guidance, and it's also got 10 qualified mindset coaches in there now from the previous coaching cert. So yeah, there's plenty of people in there that are going to help you with your mindset. So if you want to join that, you can head over to Facebook and search for Mindset for Functional Athletes. And I also think somewhere on the Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/mindsetrx, or just look for Mindset RX on Facebook, and I think it's linked somehow. Anyway, as I mentioned, naproxen. Naproxen is like a brilliant version of ibuprofen or Nurofen. I don't think it's psychologically distorting. I think that's just the fact that I've had too much caffeine this morning. But you may be asking, why, Tom, are you on naproxen? So, as all good stories start, I was in a fight, this time at jiu-jitsu, and I'll try and describe it without getting too technical with jiu-jitsu, but I was in a mount position, which means that basically there was a guy I just realized how it's going to sound for everyone else. There's a guy below me. I was kneeling down on top of him, basically on his chest. And the idea here is that it's a very dominant position. If you can imagine if you're lying on your back and you've got someone kneeling on top of you, that's not a position that you want to be in. And this is a dominant position for me. And in order to submit someone, this is like quite a nice metaphor. In order to submit someone, you have to momentarily give up your stability and control of the situation to try and win. And this is exactly what I tried to do yesterday. I went for an armbar, which is essentially when you hyperextend someone's elbow, not fully, and they tap because it's training. They tap, and that's the end of the round, or I basically submitted him. I in air quotes won that round. So I went for that. And what you do is you place one hand on the chest, you kick your other foot around over the top, or your leg over and around on top of basically the other guy's neck. In that moment, or in the process of that, you link your arm through the crook of his elbow or grab the elbow, and then you lean backwards. So in doing so, you essentially place his elbow between your legs, and then use your hips to push up through his elbow, and in doing so hyperextend and then tap. As I was doing this, you can imagine you have to spin quite aggressively. As I was doing this, I mistimed slightly and probably went a bit too quickly, and he bridged quite aggressively as well. So just like a hip thrust, or like a hip thrust, or any kind of hip extension exercise like a clean, he kind of did that and brought his knees into his chest and exploded over. Because I was in such a dominant position, because I had the armbar locked in, I went to hold on to that arm and then extended, using my shoulder to cushion the fall. And you might be able to see where this is going. Apparently using just your shoulder to cushion the fall instead of tucking it in and rolling isn't the best technique to do in this situation. And immediately I felt, that's not good. But you get kind of little knocks and niggles in training a combat sport, just like you do in CrossFit or whatever you guys train. And so I locked it in, got smashed into my shoulder, and then started leaning back, and essentially got injured. I thought it was fine, carried on for a fraction of a second. Annoyingly, if I wasn't injured, I would have won straight away. And I quickly realised that this was not a good idea to continue, and kind of stopped it there. as I lifted one shoulder up, I heard a nice little crunch and felt a nice little crunch in my shoulder. What I now know to be probably some not horrendous but pretty bad ligament damage, maybe some tears, maybe some strains, maybe some ACJ separation. So right now I'm sat here covered in yellow tape, and I am injured for the first time in a long time. I've had little niggles, but I'm definitely injured, and I'm having to take a dose of my own medicine. So no training for the foreseeable future really until this thing heals up. And of course we can look at it. The first interesting thing that really happened here is that I realized intellectually understanding and emotionally understanding a problem are two very different things. So I've told maybe hundreds of athletes over my course of mindset coaching that injury is an opportunity, and intellectually understood that, of course, but emotionally there was some lag there. Luckily, because I've said it so many times, it was deeply ingrained to my subconscious, and I immediately began looking for the opportunity. But unless you're telling yourself that every step back is in fact an opportunity to take 2 paces further forwards, then you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard, and injury is not going to be kind to you unless you really understand that injury is an opportunity, and the obstacle is the way, as I've said so many times in paraphrasing or basically copying Ryan Holiday. So that's the first important thing. And then over the next 6 hours or so, I wrote a Facebook post like about 6 hours later. It was basically interesting lessons that I learned 6 hours after screwing my shoulder, and I want to take you through in a bit more detail because there's a bit more nuance than in the Facebook post. The first thing I learned that was feeling sorry for myself just makes me feel shit. Like so I got back from the hospital after having x-rays and all this kind of stuff, and I sat down on the sofa and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to can the rest of the day. It was 4 o'clock. I missed all my athlete calls and check-ins, which was really frustrating. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to can it. And I sulked for a good 10 minutes, and also I'd been up since 5:30, so I was pretty tired by this point and probably like emotionally drained as well to some degree. And I sat down on the sofa and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to write today off, start again tomorrow, and I'm going to spend the rest of the day sulking. I realized within about 15 minutes that this was maybe the worst thing to do, because sulking just made me feel a lot worse. Feeling sorry for myself made me feel a lot worse, and it's obvious. However, the more interesting thing is the second thing I realized, which was ignoring the injury altogether was equally as bad as sulking, if not worse, because subconsciously I knew I was still injured. So trying to carry on as if nothing was happening was a massive mistake. And it's kind of my default setting to try and play the hero, to be like, oh no, you know what, I'm fine. Like, for example, I tried to turn down painkillers at the hospital, and I was quickly told to stop being such an idiot in more words than that. Sorry, no, I'm just going to take a sip of coffee. So it's my natural default setting to or not natural, it's what I've trained into myself and what I've kind of described as good to myself for so long. However, it was really a bad move to try and ignore things. I made it worse. Well, I didn't make it worse. I just niggled it and kept on catching it, and it was just not a good situation. So trying to be the hero is just as bad, and it's just a stupid thing to do. I'm still injured. Like, no matter how much I want to ignore it, I'm still injured. So between those points is the answer. Not feeling sorry for yourself. So feeling like, okay, I'm going to get on with things, because that was the next thing I did. I just got up and got on with things. And then also realizing that I couldn't get on with everything in quite the same way. The next thing, if you injure yourself semi-seriously, it's a very good idea to be training next to a doctor who works at the emergency department in the hospital nearest to you. As a stroke of luck, the guy next to me managed to rush me through x-rays. Very guiltily, I passed a whole queue of people that I think have been waiting about an hour and a half to 2 hours, judging from their complaints. Past them, walked in to get an x-ray, walked into the next room, the emergency department, and got assessed. And yeah, living the life in terms of that. It's like having private healthcare, and that is a huge benefit. The next thing, injury is not life or death. that is a big thing here. Like, yes, my injury is not great. Yes, I'm not going to be able to train for a while. Yes, it's painful, and it means that I slept pretty damn poorly last night. I just kind of sat up and rolled around, and I usually sleep on the shoulder that I injured. Luckily, it's not my dominant hand, but at the same time, there's people who can't find water today, and there's people who, like Mark Ormrod, my most like recent guest on this podcast, that he's missing 3 of his limbs. How lucky am I to have just a little niggle in one of my limbs than to be missing all of them bar one? That's it puts it into perspective. So understanding what true suffering is, and also understanding that, like, for my final point, embracing hardship is the way forwards. The more I look at training and the more I look at life as a whole, the more I realize that suffering is not only an inevitable part of life and something that makes us better, but it's something that human beings kind of crave and seek out because it's part of life. We have an obsession with suffering, and if you embrace the hardship, it only serves to make you stronger. And whether it's intentional or incidental, the 2 types of hardship, you have no choice really but to go towards it, to make the best of it, because the only other choice is to shy away from it and ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. And in very physical terms, all that's going to do is injure myself further or not allow myself to recover. In psychological terms, it's going to mean I can't assess my own weaknesses. It's going to mean that I continue to hide from my weaknesses in the future and my inability, as opposed to identifying my weaknesses, identifying negative feedback, and then creating a better version of myself because of it. So the real answer is to embrace the hardship and learn from it, and come out the other side a better human being. That is the only way to embrace any sort of situation. Like, we've got incidental, like I said. Incidental is hardship that you do not seek out, and you can hide from it, or you can go towards it because it's there no matter what. And then intentional hardship, training, things that you seek out, the suffering that you seek out in order to become a better person. And that's where I'm going to leave today's show, because, well, that's the end of the show. No need to justify yourself, Tom. Anyway, I will leave you there. Have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to join the Mindset for Functional Athletes Facebook group. And if you enjoyed the show, head over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, or wherever you listen to your podcast, leave a 5-star review and a nice comment, because I think we're at like almost 70 5-star reviews now, which is more than most podcasts get, and I'd appreciate your time. Anyway, this is how you I was doing so well in this podcast. This is how you deal with injuries. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll speak to you all very soon.